May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. Good afternoon. I would like to salute you, Ahmed Taha. I'm honored to moderate the fourth session of the 16th Aljazeera Forum. The title of this session is The Middle East Facing New Balances. So the round of war has come to an end, but the devastation is left behind on the Palestinian people and their environment. And this will stand a testament to the occupation's crimes and its policy of genocide, which it has pursued for over 15 months. While the Palestinians have borne the full cost of the war with an international community unable or unwilling to assist, the challenges ahead will allow for the intervention of various powers and the convergence of many roles. There are so many questions. What will the future hold for the Palestinian cause after the war? Also, what will Israel's situation be after its failure to eliminate resistance and reshape the Middle East? And also, we have another question. What are the costs that the Arabs will face or gain amid the rapidly changing dynamics and the new balances taking shape in the region? Within this context, ladies and gentlemen, let us welcome our guests, and I would like to start with Mr. Usama Hamdan, senior official in the Islamic resistance movement Hamas. I would like to welcome Dr. Liqa Makki, senior researcher at Aljazeera Center for Studies, Dr. Muhsin Saleh, Director General of Al Zaytuna Center for Studies and Consultations, and Johnny Munir, journalist and political analyst. Would like to welcome you all and reiterate our welcome to you all. And we're going to have 10 minutes allocated to each and every speaker. And after that, we're going to open the floor for discussion and open the floor for a Q&A session. We would like to start with Mr. Usama Hamdan. The floor is yours. So my question to you perhaps is branched out, and I am sure that it would need more than 10 minutes, but this is the time allocated. If we try to talk about the Middle East as a region, talking about four main trends after the war: the resistance axis, where is it? The Palestinian axis in general, the Israeli axis, and the Arab region, the Middle East in general, and the impact of this round of war on all these four parameters. Go ahead. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, I would like to start my intervention with my salutation and thanks to Al Jazeera Media Network. I would like to salute the journalists of Al Jazeera, particularly the martyrs who are carrying out a very important job when it comes to the dynamics of the region in light of Al-Aqsa flood. I would like to start with the Palestinian component. I think in Palestine we have a conviction that has developed about the ability to have impact and achievement. The 7th of October was a historical achievement. A group of no more than a few hundreds, they were able to destroy the Gaza group of the military army of Israel. Within 6 hours, they were able to carry out their job through the use of individual kind of weapons, and this was a great success. This gave the Palestinians the feeling that they can achieve great success if they take the initiative. And I think that the Palestinian cause is going to face a number of challenges, and the challenges are as follows. So we have the national Palestinian projects. How we're going to retrieve our historical project as a liberation project, as a return project, as establishing an independent state on all Palestinian territories, or are we going to continue working on a political process since Oslo with no gains? It was an accumulation of loss or losses. And also we have a number of indicators in this direction. So the monopoly of decision in Palestine should come to an end, and also negotiations. Negotiations lead to nothing. They are unable to protect the West Bank, to protect the different camps. The neighborhoods are destroyed, as it was the case in Gaza. We're talking about in excess of 40,000 persons that have been displaced in the last 3 months since the beginning of the Israeli operation in Gaza, in the West Bank. And nobody talks about these crimes. And I think that the West Bank is targeted and the National Palestinian Project is being targeted, and perhaps there are attempts to work again on this project. The second challenge is the reconstruction of Gaza and the fact of using it as a means of pressure, and perhaps the reconstruction would be an opportunity to build a pathway that is going to serve the strategic project, which is liberation and establishment of the state. The responsibility of the Arabs is great here, and when it comes to the position of Arab countries, this leads to a big question: how resolute are they going to be in the face of American pressure, or resort to settlements? And I think this is not going to be at the expense of the Palestinians alone, but at the expense of the whole region, and those who gotten used to resorting to settlements where the price used to be paid by the Palestinians themselves. Now these people, these countries are going to be the ones paying such kind of price, including the repercussions of annexation and displacement. So the victory in Gaza has led to an opportunity and a challenge. So the opportunity, which is the defeat of Israel, is possible, and achieving an achievement, political achievement based on this military victory. But the challenge is there a willingness, a readiness to deal with that when it comes to the Zionist entity or Zionist enemy. I think that they have failed in achieving their goal. They were not able to displace the Palestinians. They were not able to put an end to the resistance. They were not able to disseminate chaos, which was one of their objectives. So we have seen scores of cadres that have been targeted in the attempt of disseminating chaos. Militarily, there is an intelligence failure on the 7th of October, and also there is a collapse of the military on the 7th of October. There is also a crisis of trust. We have an army or a military that is completely exhausted internally. I think that Israel is going to enter into a deep crisis, internal crisis, not due to the political crisis, but the battle led to divisions between the seculars, the Haredim, and so on and so forth. So military used to be the title of trust and confidence, but confidence and trust in the military has retreated a great deal. And I think that Netanyahu leads Israel into a number of complexities because he wants to stay or continue staying in power. And there is also an existential concern that exists in Israel as well. There is regression when it comes to the level of trust and confidence, and the Israelis, they themselves recognize after 1 year they used to get their ammunition from the US and Europe. When we talk about a military, when Iran decided to fire its missiles, its rockets, and we had different countries coming to defend the Zionist entity. So this shows that it is not able to defend itself. So the military is going to wage these battles, and this would make it a military that is much more capable to destroy and kill, but it is a military that does not trust itself and does not think that it can achieve victory. I think this is going to have internal repercussions. That is why, in my view, the Israelis with the Americans are going to resort to exporting the Israeli crisis externally, and they're going to try to export it to the region through the project of displacement, as it was said by Trump. This is an exportation of the crisis, and also to talk about the confrontation of the Iranian influence. And now we're talking about the Turkish also hegemony, also an influence. And now they cannot impose their equations in the region. The Abrahamic Accords cannot cover Israel in the region. And I think this is an opportunity to find a way out from this dilemma when it comes to the resistance, because I do not want to go beyond the time allocated to me. Undoubtedly, that the resistance axis was very much impacted, and this is manifested in many scenes, such as the loss of Syria and also the loss of Hezbollah in Lebanon. And due to the outcome of the war and the victory of Gaza, its resoluteness, steadfastness, had led to an outcome that the philosophy of resistance is a victorious philosophy, and the Axis was able to wage its war with all its components and was able to enter into new spheres of confrontation, such as Yemen, Iraq, and so on and so forth, in different forms. And this opens or gives the opportunity for the Axis to rehabilitate itself and to open new relationships that are different from the previous relations. We have had a call between Putin and the president of Syria, and perhaps tomorrow the Iranian president will hold a call with the Syrian president. So in 1 minute, let me put my glasses on to read. So there are a limited number of exceptions here. I talk basically about Qatar and Egypt, the Arab region. There was a kind of inaction from these countries. The Arab region is going to be under the influence of the American Zionist project, who are going to export their crises to these countries. And here the Arabs should try to discuss this matter and find solutions to this matter. Throughout the last 76 years, America was always trying to persuade the region that Israel does not constitute a threat and that their existence is not in contradiction with their own interests. The exportation of this crisis means a direct threat to the region, to the countries of the region, to the interests of the region. Those who are going to be mostly impacted are the allies of America and Israel in the region. If you allow me 1 extra minute, the fact that these interests are competing with the interests of the Arabs in the region, this is going to lead to more soft wars in the region, which means that the coming crisis is not going to be limited to the position of those who resist or have been resisting Israel, but also in the confrontation of countries that consider themselves as being moderate states. This is very briefly what I wanted to say. Perhaps in my second intervention, I can give you more details. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Usama Hamdan. And now, Dr. Liqa Makki. We should not speak about what the guest says as journalists during the breaks. I asked Dr. Makki to say the following quote. After 7th of October, our Dr. Makki was a guest on Aljazeera Mubashir, and he said, this war is not an Israeli-Palestinian war. It is a war to formulate the region anew and to form the maps of the region. It will not end except with the war between Israel and Iran. The allies of Israel on one point and the allies of Iran at one point. Are you with this opinion still? And this war will not end except if there is a war that's open against Iran, Dr. Makki? Thank you in the name of Allah, the Gracious, the Merciful. It is like that indeed. It is like that from some time. The war between Israel and Iran has been launched indeed. There were some who were fighting proxy war, that is Hezbollah on behalf of Iran, and some factions in Iraq as well, and Iran fought directly as well. And today there is talk about an Israeli possible attack by Israel against the nuclear program of Iran with support from the United States. This is according to the New York Times and according to Ma'arif newspaper yesterday. However, if this will happen or not, I don't know. But this is related to the nature of relations between Trump's administration and Iran and the dialogue and sanctions. If Iran rejects dialogue, generally speaking, just to reach an answer to your question, 2 days ago, Trump met the Prime Minister of India in the White House. In the press conference, he said that there was an agreement on a great project, a great road, as he described it, between India and Israel and Italy, then America. Of course, some media outlet said that this is an announcement by Trump. He did not announce anything. This is an old project, and Biden announced it in 2023 in Mumbai in the G20 summit there, that we agreed to a huge project, and then the path connecting Mumbai, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and then Jaffa or Haifa port, and then Europe. This is a well-known project anyway, as an alternative to the Silk Road, etc. However, this project has disappeared because after 7th of October there were some changes and the whole world was busy and preoccupied with the new story. However, this path, what has made me pay attention to the statements of Trump? This issue was not the ideas of Biden. It is originally a UAE project. However, this issue is related to a strategic program. Trump now is embracing it as his own project. It doesn't matter his or Biden's, but in these projects, if you want to make Haifa or Jaffa port from local port into an international one that would be the biggest in the world, you have to secure the road for it. One missile could destroy the whole port in Haifa and the project will be over. That's why the security environment is important to safeguard such great projects. And Trump said there were big investments that will be thrown into this. So we can see Hezbollah in the north, and now we see the area in the Litani River secured somehow, and also you have to secure it from Gaza, and to a lesser extent the West Bank, because they don't have missiles that could reach Haifa and Tel Aviv, just like what it is in Gaza. So the project until now has been destroyed, but Hamas has not been destroyed. So this project is still threatened. Here I'm speaking about the relationship between economy and geopolitical projects. So this is related to economic normalization. In September 2023, Prince Mohammed bin Salman spoke to Fox News, I believe, and he said that through a few weeks we will agree to measures for normalization and the Palestinian state should be established. This was published. And then this was postponed, and Blinken also said that this has been postponed because of the war. Now, this has been on the decline because Israel rejects completely the establishment of a Palestinian state. So, we are here speaking about a vision for the region that the geopolitical situation should be reshaped so that this vision will be realized. You cannot realize this vision of a political nature through which there will be indeed not displacement of the Palestinians, but rather look into their needs. And we have to say that taking the Palestinians in such big economic projects in a way that will make them forget about Palestine, that they should go to cafes and smoke the nargila and the argila, etc. Now, let alone the fact that the prison, the big prison in Gaza, should be open and finished. So now this will make people look into jobs given by Nuyom project by Saudi Arabia or similar projects by Egypt that would make people happy that they have a job opportunity. Gaza, by the way, has a lot of technical expertise. So this paradigm of thinking really needs to organize the strategic environment. What happened is that in the region before 7th of October, you had two big blocks, Israel on one hand, with its capabilities and abilities and its Western alliances, and Iran on the other side, with its local alliances and forces outside Iran, such as Hezbollah and forces in Iraq and Yemen. So this paradigm of political conflict between both sides will inevitably end in war. So this tension was evident even before the 7th of October. So 7th of October had to happen because there was enormous pressure. So that's why was it requested to be at this time or not? This is something else. But when the war started, Israel invested the situation and fought Hamas, and it has failed in eliminating Hamas in Gaza. So they destroyed the Gaza Strip, and this is not something big because Israel has great air power, but Israel tactically has failed in freezing the resistance because the resistance kept on fighting even until the last moments of reaching the agreement. I don't know about losses and wins, but anyway, for the north and Lebanon, the situation is different. In 2 months, Hezbollah was over, finished, vanished in terms of its political leadership at least. And they were so weak to the point that they were unable to remain as a force of hegemony in the region. In Lebanon, they still have a role, nevertheless. And then the Syrian event came immediately after what happened to Hezbollah, and this was a main reason to make the Iranian decline real. Doctor, you have 1 minute. So you have 1 minute. Now we are asking, what will the future hold? There is a plan called the Gaza Plan. I wished you would have asked Dr. Usama about it. He knows about it. He will not give you an answer because it still is a secret. We will ask him later. But this plan, in my view, will transform the decision making from the Palestinians to some Arab countries. And the plan may also be an alternative of a deal that is related to Gaza, which includes reconstruction, etc., etc. And this plan was needless. Trump has given an unrealistic or foolish plan, and if he can displace the Palestinians, let him do it. So why would you do this? So Trump was successful in imposing the Arabs to put a plan, whether it is pleasing or not. The plan could include taking Hamas away from the government, but he wants Hamas to be away from Gaza, not from the government. And Israel will call for that, even though if they might give up the displacement request. Iran, last sentence, Iran now, after it lost Syria and a part of Lebanon, yesterday an Iranian plane was forbidden from landing in Beirut airport, and this is not natural, abnormal, because the airport is controlled by Hezbollah. So look at the changes. The best thing, therefore, that Iran can do now is to bless the status quo, because any attempt to restore Syria in a way that would be violent, this will make Iran lose its presence in the Arab region completely. So there is no need for tension. Let the Syrians decide for their lives, and the Lebanese as well. And also, the long expansion of Iran is not comfortable, because you would need ability, you need capabilities, and some countries do not have that. Thank you, Dr. Liqa Makki, researcher from Aljazeera Center for Studies. And now we move to Dr. Mohsen Salah. Dr. Mohsen, in the past 2 days, the talk was that there is an Arab plan. Some may say that if Israel, what Israel could not achieve through war, can achieve through this Arab plan, meaning there is nothing that confirms this or denies it. We are still waiting for the Arab plan and the upcoming summit at the end of this month. But my question is, what is the cost that should be paid by the Arabs now? Some say there were prices that should have been paid at the beginning of this war, and an attempt that they should stop it at any time was stopped. So what should the Arabs do right now?
Thank you very much. In the name of God, my salutation and thanks to Al Jazeera Network and Al Jazeera Center for Studies, our dear audience, and all the people present with us here today. I would like to start with an anecdote. During the Second World War, the German submarines constituted a huge danger on the different ships of the Allies, the American and British and so on. And there was a man that went to the Pentagon, the Ministry of Defense, the Pentagon, and he presented an idea to the Admiral. He told the Admiral, I have an idea to get rid of these German submarines. And he said, go ahead. He said, I propose that you would boil the Pacific, the Atlantic, sorry. He said, this is a great idea, but how can we boil all the water in the Atlantic? He said, this is my idea, and I said what I have to say, but boiling the water, this is your own job. And he left. Is what is being proposed by Trump in line with the same idea, the owning of Gaza and also displacing the people of Gaza? Is this akin to boiling the water of the Atlantic? What does Trump want to achieve? Is this a kind of a media bubble in order to reform or re-establishment of the deep state within the United States of America to put pressure on the deep state? Or is this an attempt for political extortion and blackmail in order to raise the ceiling and therefore reach what he wants to reach, as if he's wanting or as if he's making concessions and sacrifices? Or is this an attempt to stifle the feeling of joy, of victory? Or is this an attempt to show his ignorance, his kind of ignorance and arrogance, or an attempt to try to shine light on certain regimes for them to be presented as being victorious and represent them, reinstate them in new plans of rehabilitating, representing Gaza, whatever the aim is. If we go back to Trump's personality, if we try to analyze his personality, there are certain attributes that we need to understand this personality. The first point, as you know, Trump is a narcissistic person. And the second point, he is a person that is always unpredictable. And the third point, he has the pragmatic real estate trader's mentality. And also, he is representative of the Christian evangelical or evangelist. And the fifth point is that he is a person that is very wants to achieve speedy results and outcomes. And he is a person who creates crises around him. If we look into these 6 attributes, then we need to mix them all together for us to understand or to have the personality of Donald Trump. When we try to analyze the situation within the framework of any settlement to come, I think that Trump conflates between 3 points. So the market's calculations and also the second point, the strategic calculations pertaining to the management of the region. And the third point is related to ideal human principles through which this region is looked at. There is a conflation between the sanctity of the homeland, the independence of the homeland, and the real estates, the farm, and so on. There's a lot of ignorance about the history of this region of Palestine and how people are deeply rooted in their land and they are ready to make concessions and sacrifices. There is lack of understanding when it comes to equality and dignity. There's a conflation between these things and bargaining and dealing with the markets and owning real estate and so on and so forth. I think he intentionally ignores the fact that even the occupation was not able to own the Gaza Strip and that they have waged 4 wars with the 17-year siege on Gaza, and they were not able to own Gaza. The Palestinian people have been in their land, deeply rooted in their land. There have been scores of projects for 77 years have been attached. So for 77 years, they have been attempting to uproot them. This is a mentality that they have. So they want to promote this American will and what the Israelis are doing as if they have won the battle. But in actual fact, the Zionist entity failed in achieving all the goals they have established. And they have announced themselves they were not able to put an end to the resistance and to Hamas. They failed in liberating the prisoners prisoners. They failed in so many things to secure the Gaza envelope and also many, many other objectives. They were not able to crush the people of Gaza in the settlement programs and many others. And also they have faced many crises. The same applies to the resistance that had paid a huge price as a result of its resoluteness with the popular base. Even the Zionists, they suffer a great deal as a result of the destruction. We're talking about in excess of 2,000 vehicles have been destroyed, and also we have also the impact on the economy and lack of a safe haven for the Israelis in Palestine in a way or another, and also we have reverse migration from Israel outwards, and so on and so forth. I have not forgotten my question. So what is the price that is going to be paid? Here I would like to say, so it is the Palestinian who is required or requested to pay these prices. Normally, he should get a price for his achievements. So the Palestinians should fight, they have been making sacrifices for more than 100 years, and now they are required us to pay the price. All the scenarios that we see and that we hear, they concentrate on finding solutions to the problems of the Israelis and also to grant the Israelis and to punish the Palestinians, to punish the victims. All the solutions are based on marginalizing the power that tries to defend the rights of the Palestinians. So all the solutions concentrate on helping the Israelis and not finding solutions to the Palestinians. The Palestinians should impose their own will and not to solve issues of the Israelis. So solutions advance and say, Hamas, give way. Hamas, it's enough. Hamas would like this leadership, and these are the standards and criteria. And the American and Israeli criteria are imposed on the Palestinians. We're talking about 100 years of jihad, of resistance, of uprising. Don't you think that the Palestinians are mature enough to decide who should lead them? When the people can lead themselves, why should they accept to have this imposed on them? So you deal with the Palestinian people as if they are minors. So why would the occupying force decide who should lead the resistance? The resistance that leads the confrontation in order to put an end to occupation. Would the enemy come to decide what leadership should be established? You have less than 1 minute. Solutions cannot be presented in such a way. That is why I say what is being talked about in terms of solutions, as my colleague has asked me to come an international power or an Arab power to manage the situation in Palestine. So the issue is to guarantee the basic rights of the Palestinians, to respect the will of the Palestinians, and to deal with the resistant forces that have proven their ability, that they are the ones that are going to ward off and the leverage for the Ummah, and it is the line of defense, the first line of defense of the Arab world. There have been so many problems that have been disturbing for the Arab countries. So now we're talking about this line of defense. So in essence, we should have an alliance with the resistance and not get rid of it, because this would weaken our ecosystem and would lead to much more penetration from the part of the Zionists. The United States and Israel are not our fate here that we have to deal with. So the Arabs are going to be very keen. I'm not going to talk about all the scenarios, but I would like to say the scenario is going to softly refuse the plan by Trump and try to contain him gradually and try to avoid any friction with Donald Trump. But it is not going to go beyond the will of the Palestinian people and the spirit of its resistance. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohsin Saleh.
And now, Mr. Johnny Munir, let me ask. Last week, there was a stormy meeting inside the Knesset, and there was anger against Netanyahu. So he stood proudly and he said, how can I be held accountable despite what's happening in Lebanon? So look at what we did in Lebanon and in Syria and what they have done in Gaza. So isn't that really a victory or triumph or a change of the balance of power in the Middle East, or there is another point of view? Good evening. Thank you for hosting us, and thank you for Aljazeera Studies Center for this invite and for the viewers as well. We go back to 7th of October. Israel wanted afterward to form a new phase or a new era based on what? We all remember Netanyahu after visiting Trump, or after visiting Biden rather, and he said this repeatedly, we will change the image and the face of the Middle East. Thus, for every big war we were used to have strategic goals, and he spoke about changing the face of the Middle East, because the issue is not confined to Gaza nor to Lebanon. There are further goals. When Israel started its destructive war, the goal was not revenge only, nor safeguarding a security situation or a safe situation for the settlers. No, there was something beyond that, to uproot the Palestinians from Gaza and later to harass them in the West Bank and expelling them. Here I remember Ishaq Rabin in his statements, which was interesting when he said, I hope I would sleep one night and wake up and find that Gaza has been swallowed up by the sea. Now I understand how the Israeli mentality thinks. So he wants to expel the Palestinians outside Gaza and outside the West Bank, and even to go further than that. So this has been revealed by Donald Trump in a clear way as a real estate developer. But it was beyond that. Some say there is the issue of oil and the gas in the Sea of Gaza. Not only that, but now there is talk also about the network that connects India to Gaza towards Europe. This not only what they want, but he wants to kick out the Palestinians and expel them. So we should not think that what has been said until now is able to undermine this project. There is an intention of entrenchment, expelling the Palestinians. Everything was destroyed to make life impossible. But in the face of all these foolish ideas of Trump and Netanyahu, there are other points that are positive points that give us hope that there is a possibility to counter this project if we behaved well and if we act well and perform well. This goes back to the Palestinians. In a statistics done by Biometric Arabic poll, this was done by an American organization on the 7th of October, which says that those who think about migration, Tunisia, Jordan 2%, Lebanon 38%, Morocco 35%, Iraq 26%, Palestine 25%. So the Palestinians, despite everything, are holding on to their land. And I know we have met so many in Lebanon. All the guests we have after a year or two will be even speaking in the Lebanese dialect. you would not be able to recognize them, whether they are native Lebanese or came from elsewhere. So only the Palestinians since 70 years have been displaced, and until now you speak with them and they are still speaking the Palestinian dialect, and that gives you hope that despite the harassment done, those Palestinians are holding on to their land. And here we should not forget, not because Mr. Usama is with us, but Hamas remained insisting, and I follow up their position regarding the issue of no displacement, meaning return of the Palestinians, all of them, to their land. So holding on to this principle consistently is one of their thoughts, countering or versus the watered down positions of the Palestinian Authority, as if tacitly they say we will accept the no return of the Palestinians to their land. So there is pressure now through using UNRWA, sometimes through military pressure and using other means. But is this enough to make us say that we will be reassured? No. Mistaken is the one who thinks that the goal for Israel or the United States is to go towards securing normalization with Israel as an ultimate goal. This is just a station in a long path that will be utilized. The ultimate goal is not that, it is to disintegrate the region, changing its map, and to go to another Sykes-Picot that is in agreement with the Israeli project. Sykes-Picot, when it took place, Israel was a newborn baby at the cost of the Palestinians, and the goal, we have seen that it has changed, and the conflict has changed from changing a place or bringing safety for this place to be an entity. Now this entity now is considering itself as the father of this region or the mother of this region with a Jewish nationality. So they want the reasons for it to remain master in the region, but at the same time, how can this be done through creating states that are sectarian and divided, creating states that are sectarian, conflicting with each other, their economies are flimsy, and yet they are looking up to their for their father, big father, which is Israel. So now we have now seen conflicts. We are tearing each other's up. And look at Syria today and Iraq. There are four main regional forces now conflicting in this region, or maybe facing one another. Iran, Turkey, Israel, needless to say, and the Arab Gulf countries and their economic powerhouse. Those powers, if they continue in their struggle and fighting, that would lead to more disintegration, and this would lead to open the path in front of the Israeli project. As I was told recently by one of the members of the team that is so close to President Trump, he told me that he started to work on arrangements to achieve one negotiating session only between the Americans and Iran. He told me that in weeks. He did not give me a specific date. And when I asked him where, he said, I won't tell you, but he said that this session or this meeting, which is coming, within a few weeks, like you said, which will be either will go in the direction of agreeing with Iran, having an agreement, or to direct a hit against Iran, or maybe Israel's targeting the nuclear sites of Iran. So these four forces I mentioned, if the understanding or even the conflict would lead to enriching those contradictions, then our region will go quickly in slippery road that will not be safe for anyone. Winston Churchill says, diplomacy is an art of telling the people to go to hell in a way that will make them demand the road and the map to go to hell. So I hope that we will not be in this reality.
Mr. Joni, thank you very much for your intervention. And now we'd like to open the floor for the Q&A session. We're going to have a very short session. Mahmoud, تفضل. Mahmoud, go ahead, sorry. Abdul-Munim Mahmoud. My question is to Mr. Usama Hamdan. This is an observation that was reiterated by Hani al-Masri in the opening session and again by Liqa Makki, the Arab position which refuses displacement. The price for that is going to be the head of resistance. What is the position of Hamas if it is asked in the name of reconstruction of Gaza, if there is an aggression against this military component? So if the answer is, I would like to understand what the scenario going to be if this question has not been posed in the first place. Thank you very much. May the peace of God be upon you all. Usama Abdul Shafi, Professor of International Relations. So the question, which is the day after, this was the question that used to be posed when we talk about the resistance groups and also when there is a statement on different occasions that we are not the ones who are supposed to manage the Gaza Strip. So there are repercussions of for such statement. So the arms of the resistance and also to announce to disband the movements and also cutting ties with Iran. And also in this particular case, we're not talking about a democratic model for us to say that management is going to leave and a new management will be established or new administration is going to be established. Dr. Mustafa Sawaq raised his hand. Dr. Mustafa Sawaq, your question, perhaps 20 minutes is going to be enough? 5 minutes is enough. So it is not a question, it is just an observation that I noticed since this morning and even prior to that. When we talk about the position of Trump, when we talk about the madness of Trump and the idea of displacement, this is not an idea coined by Trump. This is an idea that has been discussed, has been put on the table by the Israelis. And after the 7th of October, it was clearly said and that the Gazans should be wiped out in a way or another, and it is best for them to leave the place. So trying to associate this with Trump as if it is his idea, this is not true. As you know, he is part of a system, an extremist group in America. We're talking about the far right, which is linked to the Anglican Church and all what comes with it and what they talk about the Torah prophecies. So they believe in such prophecies. There are a number of rabbis who say that he is the one that comes before Christ appears again, and so on. So this is a Zionist Israeli kind of concept or idea, and not a Trumpian kind of idea. And there is another observation, perhaps that might shock some of you. We do believe that talking about Iran in a way that removes it from its own context, I think this is a mistake. So we will not gain by excluding Iran. Yes, we know that Iran made a huge mistake by not standing with the people, but perhaps it would pay a dear price. But they have to recognize that they have made a mistake, they have to repent. And at the same time, the Arab world and the Islamic world should find a new formula to find or reach an agreement with Iran. We cannot leave things as they are and make only Israel and the West benefit from this. This is going to be the last question, and then if we can go for a second round. Thank you, Ahmed, and to your guests. I'm a journalist in Aljazeera network. Dr. Liqa Makki, you said that Ansar Allah Houthiyun, they fought on behalf of the Iranians. And also they stood with Gaza, and they were the only entity that have threatened to resort to military might. Why do we deal with these resistance groups as if they are only groups that are moved by Iran? So Al-Lahyan and others, they say that their position is independent, and it is their independence. If we look at the resistance group, we have seen the different kind of interventions based on such independent positions of these resistance groups. So since we're talking about the Middle East facing new balances, I think we need to revisit how we define and how we look at these groups and how we look at Iran as well. Thank you very much, Ala. If we have time, perhaps we can have a second round of questions. We'd like to give the floor now to Mr. Usama Hamdan. So talking about reconstruction and Hamas reconstruction and so on. Perhaps those below 35 will not remember what I'm saying. Do you remember the Desert Storm? There was a war, and the Iraqi military was defeated, and most Arabs were with the Americans against the Iraqi military. After the war, James Baker, the Secretary of State, came to the region, and he said there is a bus, a settlement bus that is going to go through the region, and it is going to go to Madrid, and those who do not get on the bus will not be able to join the bus after that. This is not going to work. This is not going to work here. The American way of creating a shock and then tell you that you have to pay the price of a delusional defeat is not right. We were not defeated. We were victorious. I'm not in a position to make any concessions. When it comes to the management of the Palestinian situation, yes, this is our internal matter, talking about the day after, what is going to happen. So we're talking about the Palestinians. Those from the resistant groups are Palestinians, are going to remain Palestinians. Abu Mazen is upset. Fatah is not responding. There's faction. This is something that is internal. We're going to bear each other. But for me to pay a price for a defeated party, no, the defeated party asking me to pay a price. No. When it comes to displacement, I would like to thank Dr. Suwak for alluding to this particular point. Displacement is a topic that has been dealt with and discussed since the 50s. People have taken to the street, and this project was toppled, was defeated. This is history. We have to meticulously read it. Yes, we know the resistance was defeated in Lebanon. Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah was assassinated. And I would like to tell you, we did not ask them to intervene militarily. We met with Mr. Hassan on the 8th of October, and he started the fire in less than 24 hours since the beginning of the battle. And when we met him, he said, and he explained how he met with his leadership and he took this decision. And the objective is for Hamas to be victorious. And he said, to what extent? And he said, even if it becomes a grand battle. This was the decision that was undertaken by Hezbollah. And here I would like to say something. Read things accurately. If you read them accurately, you're going to reach accurate outcomes. Iran does not have an operation room where they send encrypted messages to groups such as Ansar Allah or Hezbollah. We all agree that we have one enemy, and that enemy is Israel, and we should help each other in this regard. But there are so many cases that have nothing to do with that. When Iran supports the resistance and when it assists us as a resistance, we cannot say that Iran is wrong, because it assisted the resistance, and those who never supported the resistance nor the Palestinian people and even colluded against the Palestinians with the Israelis, they want to gain something out of it. So, dear brothers, we would like to rebuild Gaza. These are our people. And those who talk about 50,000 martyrs, this is a huge number for some people, but I'm talking about my own family. I'm talking about our wives, daughters, sons. None of us in the leadership of Hamas that has not lost less than half his family. This was the level of sacrifice. Abu al-Abd lost 10 of his children, 7 of his grandchildren. Ismail Haniya, Abu al-Abd, brother As-Sinwar, used to fight with his brothers in the front lines. And also the same applies to others. So many used to try to delineate a stereotypical image about the resistance, that they have created these problems and they went to hide. No, we do not accept that. To say, stand aside, you have nothing to do with the Palestinian project, this is not acceptable nor possible. How are we going to manage our internal affairs? The decision in ours. And those who want to stand in the position of Israel, we're going to deal with them as we deal with Israel very clearly. Those who want to work as proxies of Israel should bear the repercussions of being proxy of Israel. That is why the leaders of the resistance, the weapons of the resistance, relationship with the ones that support resistance, these are topics that cannot be discussed. No, we're not going to discuss them and so on and so forth. No, we do not accept any one to talk to us about these topics, and the region has to take this opportunity. In the region, we have an imbalance as a result of what has happened, but this imbalance does not cancel all the equations that have been on the table. It has not put an end to the idea of resistance. No, the idea of resistance is not going to be wiped out. They're going to continue. And I say that we have an opportunity. I'm not being delusional. No, I'm speaking the truth here. We have the opportunity to expand this team. Even the transformation taking place in Syria, at the end of the day, it is going to stand with the resistance, because the Golan Heights are occupied and 400 extra kilometers have been occupied, and this can only be solved through resistance. That is why they have to be part of this axis. That is why I say that resistance is the logical option. So what can we build on that? We as Arabs, we have a historical opportunity in this battle. It has been made clear to us that there are neighbors, basic, important neighbors that we can rely on: Iran, Turkey, and Africa. South Africa that always stood with us, but after Camp David, we put them aside. In this battle, they came and they opened the case in the ICJ. And it is time for Arabs to agree with each other, to know that there is an opportunity to get away from the circle of hegemony. We have to have dialogue with the neighboring countries in order to build a region that wants to become an independent free master. And their main tool is their ability to slap Israel whenever they want to do so, and with great capacity and ability. And we've done so on the 7th of October. Dr. Liqa Makki, the question about Ansar Allah and what you mentioned in this regard. What Mr. Usama had said is very important. Yes, indeed, there have been deep questions with regard to this particular matter. Muna, your question is very important. There has been a controversy about this matter for a year and a half. Since the 7th of October, we've been facing this problematic. And many Arabs, particularly in Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria, and Yemen, they didn't know what is happening. Are they going to stand with Gaza, which is allied to Iran? They were in a state of confusion. This is Palestine. So there was a kind of an agreement, and that the context was, yes, we are with Hamas, but not with the others. Because the barometer, the ethical barometer, is not only in Israel, in Palestine. Yes, what we see as harm, occupation, displacement, this is something that we refuse in any other Arab country and any other country in the world. And this has happened in Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and is still happening in an indiscriminate and harmful way, and perhaps even worse than Israel. With regard to the proxy or agents, with the exception of the Houthis, no, the others, it does not apply to them. Yes, there is a command, there is a management. The Syrians, when they entered Aleppo, they were Iranian officers. Some of them were killed. We know this story. And there were officers who were killed with Hassan Nasrallah the day he was killed, and with Hashim Safiuddin, and this was announced by Iran. What were they doing there? Fighting with them. Yes, there is coordination, and Hezbollah is a party that believes in Wali al-Faqih as a reference in Iran, in Tehran, in Qum. The Houthis, this is the only exception. And the same when it comes to the Iraqis. And this is an official announcement that they made, not me saying it. The Houthis, because they are Yemenis, not because they belong to this sect or other. Yemenis, by nature, they are intransigent, and this feeling of being independent, they coordinate. Yes, they do that. Yes, the Iranians have helped them, but they have a feeling of independence. Even when Iran was asking them to stop for political reasons, sometimes they declined and they continued hitting until the last moment. They're more independent because they're Yemenis. Very briefly, they have this feeling of being independent, but the rest of the arms, yes, they used to coordinate tactically and strategically and so on and so forth. First, because this is a creedal kind of matter, because they belong or they are loyal to Wilayat al-Faqih. Being this being right or wrong, this is another matter, but indeed, this is not right. 1 minute to Mr. Joni, and then we can leave and end this session. We would like to reiterate with regard to the reality in Lebanon. We have listened to what has happened on the way to Beirut airport and what does it mean for the future. It is clear that there is an equation that is no longer working, whether on the regional level, the level of Iranian influence on Hezbollah in Beirut, on Hamas, or on Syria. I just want to go into some of the details. I appeared in one of the televisions and I received a call from a strange number, and then the same number called again. And I said, I have to reply. The person introduced himself as an official from Hamas. He said, I listen to you, I follow you, but you always reiterate and say that Hamas movement, and this was during the war. It was after the 7th of October. You reiterate and say that we follow Iran or we are impacted or influenced by Iranian decisions. He said, we would like to thank Iran for sending us weapons, but our policies, our decisions are outside the scope of Iran. It was a very sensitive moment. That is why I said during the war, he said that we are something and Iran is something else when it comes to our political decisions. But when it comes to weapons, we take them from Iran. This is something good for us. But when it comes to Lebanon, Hezbollah is something different. Hezbollah, through its southern neighborhood, which used to be the leadership or the command of the resistance, Yemenis, Houthis used to appear in the southern neighborhood, appear on Al-Manar television, and also we have also officials helping Houthis and Saleh Al-Aruri, for instance. You have half a minute. And even when it comes to the popular mobilization, Al-Hashd Al-Shabi, we have seen the situation in Syria. It's like a large wall that was put in front of the ambitions of Iran, because they wanted to be on the eastern coast of the Mediterranean. So Hezbollah, since the most important and capable component, has been used for no more regressions to be made. So yesterday, in my view, there was a kind of communication between Iran and the US. For the first time for 20 years, there is a power that was established far from the influence of Iran. We are supposed now to conclude. Usama Hamdan wants to have 1 minute, so we've gone beyond the time allocated. 1 minute. So the theme of this session is the Middle East facing new balances. I invite myself and I invite everybody, while thinking about the future, we have to choose the right pathway when we think about the future. We have one of two options. Either we try to accuse each other and continue accusing each other, concentrate internally and do not see the real enemy, and try to see how we're going to cooperate in order to confront the enemy and work against the enemy. Yes, our internal problems are going to continue for some time, but if we decide to cooperate in order to confront the real enemy, so cooperation is going to solve so many problems, and we're going to discover each other, and also those who need to apologize, would apologize. Those who are wrong will rectify their mistakes. But at the end of the day, we're going to reach a new dynamic, a new balance that the components of this region should live with each other and can defeat any external challenge and confront any external enemy. I think that we should think in such a way, and this should be the basis of our thinking in the future. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Usama Hamdan, Senior Official in the Islamic Resistance Movement, Dr. Liqa Makki, Senior Researcher at Aljazeera Center for Studies, Dr. Muhsin Saleh, Director General of Al Zaytuna Center for Studies and Consultation, Johnny Mnayer, journalist and political analyst. Thank you very much. I would like to thank Dr. Mustafa Suwaq for his great intervention. I would like to thank you, distinguished guests, and those who are following us through Al Jazeera channel, Al Jazeera Mubashir. May the peace and blessings of God be upon you all.